Hey, welcome everyone to StoryTrading. We got a special joint event here. Actually, that was Patrick Allen. We'll come to him in a second, but we got a special joint event here with Canadian 2020. We're doing with the mod of a couple of Reddit boards, a SPAC board, and a DWAC board. So with that, we got Patrick Orlando here. You want to say hello, Canadian, to your followers first?
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Ben, for hosting us. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, no problem. Okay, so Patrick Orlando's here. This is going to be I think, do we have 2 hours set aside for this?
I think this second one, because Patrick is busy this evening, maybe keep it to 45 minutes, and the third
Oh, okay.
one with Nunez maybe longer for 2 hours.
Okay, great. So we're going to keep it to 45 minutes. So we'll bring Patrick in for a quick introduction, and then we'll jump to the questions. Patrick, how you
Hello.
doing?
Very well, very well. Excited once again to be speaking to people interested in our business endeavors. We'll touch on finance and SPACs and some on DWAC, and it's nice to be in touch with the people interested in our endeavors.
So let me get started. I may have to drop out a little bit early, and then I got someone from my end handling the controls when I leave. So I just want to start with one or two questions of my own first, and then I'll turn it over to Canadian 2020 to go off the question list that was submitted through Reddit. So first is, can you just tell us what are the remaining steps that need to be done for the merger to close? I know you probably can't tell us anything specific about the timeline, but what has to happen next? I don't know if the S4 was filed or a vote. What are the remaining steps?
So yes, I mean, basically after the definitive agreement is signed, a document, either a proxy or an S4, is created. This document goes through several cycles back and forth with the SEC until it's in the shape that's approved to be distributed to shareholders, and that becomes the basis for the vote. That's the information package that the shareholders are meant to utilize as the source of information about the deal, so they can make an educated vote. And that is all in progress. We signed the definitive, and we've been hard at work at this. As is always the case with public companies, when there's something material and it needs to be publicly disclosed, we disclose it. So it'd be great for everybody to get accustomed to looking at the filings. Filings are available on several different websites, the SEC website, SEC report, and some others. Getting accustomed to looking at filings is important if you're investing in public companies. 8Ks highlight significant events. The S4, when it's publicly filed, will be available to all to read in draft form, and then the final obviously will be distributed so that shareholders can read this and be informed when they make their vote.
Okay, so the S4, the back and forth with the SEC, has that started, or that only starts once you submit that S4?
So when SPACs are less than 1 year old, you are permitted to do what's called a confidential filing on your first filing, and then the second filing, when you answered the first set of comments, that becomes a public filing. That's called it's a regular public filing. SPACs that are over 1 year old must submit their first S4 or other relevant document like this publicly, so you see it right away in the public filings. And then you don't see the back and forth in the comments, but you do see each public turn of the document until it's in final form.
Okay, so it's possible, you're not telling us because it's confidential, right? But it's possible a confidential has been filed, from what you're saying.
I mean, everything's possible, and obviously, no, the thing about public companies, and this is what's very important, and this is kind of an acronym everybody should learn, and then you sound really smart. There's something called MNPI, and that's material non-public information. So material non-public information cannot be disseminated to the public unless it's done through a public forum, right? What we don't want to do is have any investor or potential investor have an advantage over another one, right? So if anyone has information that's non-public and material, that would provide an edge to them. And we just are very careful, as are any responsible public companies, to make sure that anything that we're disseminating gets disseminated to the public in a fashion that enables everyone to have the same information at the same time. You will see sometimes trading halts or information disseminated after hours. And this is done on purpose so that everyone has a chance to read and digest and decide on what they do or do not want to do based on a public release of information. So yes, we always release information through public methods, and make sure that everybody has a chance to read this information before trading resumes.
Okay. All right. So with that, I know our time's limited, so I'm going to hand it over to Canadian 2020 to go over those Reddit questions.
Thanks again, Ben. I just want to say we really appreciated you hosting us today. And thank you, Patrick, for giving us time today. A lot of folks, Patrick, wanted to know a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit more about your background in education and business.
Sure. I think it's an interesting story. I ended up in the SPAC business. A lot of my business is now focused on the SPACs, but it's been a long journey. Born and raised in Washington, D.C., very exciting city, really a melting pot of people from all over the world. Good education. I went to Sidwell Friends right there in Northwest DC. Very close to several of the people still I went to high school with. Excellent education. Definitely a little bit more of an urban education, I would say. Very much focused on science. And from there, I went to MIT. High school, I think it's important to note, and you got a lot of followers out there, but definitely seriously involved in athletics. To this day, I think that's an important part of education, and that team sports mentality has really assisted me in how I look at businesses and build teams and run teams. Football especially is a team sport I've drawn a lot on in terms of having people that have different talents and making sure you're managing them efficiently so that the entire team has a winning effort. From there, I went to MIT. I initially began in engineering. I was studying mechanical engineering. I had a focus in dynamics. Really loved problem solving and the mathematics. Later, I got a degree in management science with a concentration on finance. I hate to say it, but it was a little easy because the math used in finance, all of it is derived from the same math that we use in physics and things like heat transfer. So really enjoyed my time in management science and finance. And from there, I went to JP Morgan in New York City. And not to skip over it, while I was in college, I actually worked at IDS Financial Services, which was part of American Express. So I got my Series 7 while I was in college. I was going to work probably more than I was going to class for a couple of years there. But, loved finance. At that point, we were really doing kind of financial planning, and I was helping on the technical side of IDS and American Express. Left college, I went to JP Morgan. That's where I started my Wall Street career, I would say. And at JP Morgan, I rotated around several areas, primarily, actually, now that I think about it, everything was derivatives related, structured products, swaps, and I ended up in emerging markets derivatives, trading fixed income. Very exciting time. The market was just growing. We took trading volumes and increased them incredibly, right? The market grew, and the math background really assisted me a lot, as did a real world background, because obviously when you're trading derivatives on Wall Street, a bond has several features that are not let's say clean or straightforward. There's guarantees and there's coupons, and many times other banks on the street, I don't believe, are modeling these features correctly, and we did a really great job. I worked as a market maker and did very, very well there at JP Morgan in this role. Transitioned over to Deutsche Bank, running the same area, emerging markets derivatives on the fixed income side. Options and optionality are deeply ingrained in me, and I love getting optionality for our businesses. I always try to see where I can squeeze out a little more optionality in a contract or something else. I know how to value it, and sometimes these options are very, very valuable. Sorry, I jumped over it, but also in the 90s, the early 90s, before I went to Wall Street, I worked in Peru at a Peruvian investment bank and did a little bit of equity analysis. So I've been a finance guy since early 90s, and after that, I left Deutsche Bank, and I went and worked on some operational businesses, mainly in energy and commodities. Was part of a group that built a very large private fuels terminal west coast of South America. I did some energy imports and distribution, so that was incredibly interesting to build a real business as opposed to just trading. Leveraged that experience, came back to the States, took a couple more roles in structuring derivatives, and then started co-founded a sugar trading company. It's basically trading energy just for human consumption, and kind of honed my skills with private companies as an operator. Became aware of the middle markets and SPACs in about 2018 while I was at the operating company, and it was compelling enough to shift focuses. So sold those operating companies and kind of dedicated myself to the middle markets and SPACs. So I
going
guess
over your CV, what really caught my eye?
Go ahead.
Could you elaborate a little bit more about, in the commodities, what you exactly did? You worked a little bit in the sugar, industry, but how long were you in that for?
So I started off in energy. I was doing clean product. I was doing diesel imports into Peru. There's some terminology in every market. It's similar in sugar as it is in energy. There's longs and shorts, and origins and destinations, and basically you have a situation where there's people that produce products and there's people that utilize products. Typically, they're not located in the same countries, and someone has to put together the money to finance the trade, the logistics, the storage, and all of those activities. So, did that first in energy with this terminal, and then we did it in sugar. We actually worked on not just white sugar, which moved around in containers, basically from the origins, which included, Brazil, Central America, you name it. There's a bunch of producers, and then the main consumers, United States, for example, Canada. We don't produce enough sugar, so it has to be imported. So we identify the trades, we identify the suppliers and the customers. We put together the finance, we structure the deals and execute that. And we moved $250 million of sugar in energy. Well over billions of dollars of energy get moved in clean products. So exciting, real down and dirty, visiting all these countries where they're producing this stuff, and then putting on a suit and visiting the customers. You got Kellogg's and Barry Callebaut. These are the customers, and the producers are kind of in these other countries. So it was exciting, lots of travel. Got to definitely give a shout out to my entire family for all their support. My wife, Jennifer, wonderful. She's supported me through all these different businesses, and you get a feel for how hard I've worked over these years. But they really helped me a lot, supporting me while I was traveling many days a week and working incredibly long hours. And I continue to do it now with the SPACs. And without them, I think it would be very difficult to pull these kind of business is off. So sugar, excellent. The energy, excellent. And what I've done now is leverage that experience, like what it takes to be a good operator, what the elements are, and I utilize that to assist me in analyzing potential SPAC targets. Mo, I think you're a little frozen there. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I think it's back on again. Am I still frozen?
No, now you're great. And you
Yeah,
have
sorry.
Canadian there, just so you know.
Yeah,
If anybody watching is
I'm
from
supposed to.
from Canada, one of the main ice cream producers up there was one of our customers. We had a refinery in Hamilton, right outside Toronto. So definitely say hi to all our Canadian guests. U.S. I've worked. I've always been kind of an East Coast guy. Washington D.C., college in Boston, work in New York, now living in Miami. But definitely welcome the participation of everybody else from around the country.
Hey, your internet's coming in and out, Canadian. Just letting you know. But I
Yeah,
just want to let
so
everyone know we got 10. This is interesting. 10 times more people are watching this on Rumble than on YouTube. So I think we gave a landing page. I gave people a choice of which one they wanted to choose, and it's interesting the choices they made there. I just wanted to point that out.
That's great. And Rumble, interesting business. Definitely looked at it and considered it. It ended up going a different way than one of my SPACs. But glad to see that they're part of this program.
yeah, thanks, Patrick. Sorry, guys. What happened was I was stuck on traffic here, and my flight came in late, so I'm not in the final destination. I'm at a small cafe just outside north of Toronto.
Oh, excellent.
So, Patrick, what everyone wants to know is, you obviously have very talented experience and background that's very diverse: mechanical engineering, finances, derivative trading, energy sector for both, energy for industrial consumption and folks. How did you decide on this particular target for the SPAC?
So, I'm actually not. If there's any areas that I'm less well experienced in, social media, I wouldn't say is something that I've worked in a lot. I typically don't focus on companies that are brand dependent. Brands incredibly important, no, and Justin Sugar, for example. Many of my customers are some of the best known brands in the world. But I don't like picking who's going to win. Is it Coca-Cola or Pepsi that's going to win the soda wars, right? I'd rather be the supplier to both, right? So I typically am looking for businesses that are going to do well, no matter who ends up being the winner in any sector. For example, electric vehicles. It's tough for me to pick a winner among the electric vehicle manufacturers. At the same time, there's tons of battery technologies and lithium mining and other activities that support this sector that I'm interested in, because it really doesn't matter which brand is the one that is finally successful. They're all going to utilize these inputs. This was different for me, and really it was the strength of the brand. The strength of the brand, the potential of that brand, really, I think, was what attracted me. And the more I thought about it and looked at it, the risk reward, every decision you make in life has a risk and reward, right? There's a cost and you get some benefit, and the benefit's uncertain, right? It could be very good, it could be very bad, it could be in the middle. So when I looked at this opportunity compared to the other opportunities that we looked at, it had a lot of potential, and I don't normally pick brands, but I thought this was a very strong brand.
I know what you exactly mean, because when I first got into SPACs, I was looking at a lot of EV plays, and then someone started thinking, just like when you're digging for gold, sell the pickaxes, and forget about where they're mining or what they're looking for. At least you have a more asymmetric bet on the upside that way. So we started looking at chargers and which companies are selling the chargers and who's supplying those, and that really paid off for a lot of us. So I totally get what you're saying from that perspective. And I've been on Truth Social now for about a week or so, so I can see, how it's going, and some folks are asking on Reddit because they're still in the line, are we still doing beta testing?
Yeah, so I believe the current app is called a beta. Um, that eventually will become the full fledged app. It's been Devin Nunez, who's the CEO, has been quite active in the press compared to anyone, obviously from our side. But it's the product went live right around the 21st, right, and became available for signups. And I know they're working diligently on the product and the onboarding of users.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. For sure, beta testing is the way that you can find problems in the code, find issues that need to be rectified before you scale to millions. People are just impatient. They're just really excited to get
No,
on
of
board.
course, and it kind of is a testament to what I kind of extrapolated from the following that the president had on other platforms in the past. So that was one data point. There's not a lot of data points when you're looking at a young business, but I did have data on the number of users that were following the president on previous social media platforms, and that gave me some comfort as to my analysis as to whether or not there was going to be a demand for becoming part of this option, right? I mean, everyone's got an option when they wake up in the morning, what they're going to look at, what they're going to log into. It happens in banking, right? You have Wells Fargo, Bank of America, HSBC. They all kind of do the same thing, but people choose which one to go to. I thought that a platform with this brand would definitely bring some attention. I think the stock trading also, just the activity and volume, also supports the theory that there is interest in this name.
So I just keep on getting one particular question again here. Somebody's asking, what are your hobbies? People want to know.
All right, guys. So
It's random.
I hate to say it, I'm just about to turn 50. So my hobbies have changed a little bit. When I was young, I've always been into sports. Played a lot of team sports, but then did lots of skiing, snowboarding. I flew planes for a little while. These small single propeller planes. I absolutely love that. I'd love to get back into that. More recently, I hate to say one of my hobbies is just having meetings and learning about companies and different people's businesses. I try to spend as much time with my family and wife and my kids as possible. We're members of a couple. We're lucky enough to be members of a couple clubs, and we have a lot of friends there. So very active socially, and just wish I was good at golf, but for the most part, skiing, snowboarding, and hanging out with the family here. Pretty big at barbecuing. I can cook meat like a champion, but don't ask me to give you the sides and the meat at the same time. That doesn't happen. You get kind of one thing, one protein, and that's what I'm good at. Everything else, I have to lean on my wife for.
That's awesome. Ben wants to jump in with a few questions.
Sure. I got a really interesting question to ask you. For those of you who don't know, at StoryTrading, we analyze stocks based on 4 pillars. fundamentals, sentiment, catalysts, and technicals. Very different than a pure technical trader or a pure fundamental trader that's only looking at financial value. And DWAC was a very interesting opportunity. When we heard you were merging with Truth Social, we did this whole analysis the night of the announcement about the importance of sentiment and to what extent should sentimental value be part of the market pricing of an asset. And I think we've seen already proven, that because of ideological or political reasons, people are willing to buy an asset at a price that may be above the fundamental value for sentiment reasons, right? Whether that's because they're very bullish about the fundamentals long term, or whether it's just a vote for Donald Trump or whatever reason they have. And I think that's been a very, very interesting dynamic we've seen here in the last couple months. And I'm sure you're aware of that dynamic and you saw that. But my question for you is, in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of market volatility, a lot of risk assets crashing, but DWAC is not only held in there, but it's hitting a new all-time high basically every single day this past week. So I wanted to know, from your perspective, what do you attribute that strength in the stock to? Do you think it's just more of the same sentiment, or just your analysis to whatever extent you're allowed to comment on it? Oh, did we lose him at the very best time?
Oh no. Oh, I'm gonna make sure
He'll be
he has the
back.
link. Can you use the same link again?
Yeah, you can. Oh, there he is. That was the best question.
I
All
got
right.
bumped off there for a second.
There you go.
All
right.
I beat up my computer. So back to this question.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can hear me or see me.
We hear you. We see you.
All right. So, look, I.
Well, not so much anymore. I think it's frozen. Do you hear him, Canadian?
He's frozen here as well.
Let's
give him a second or two. Maybe he'll come back.
He's probably like giving us this whole great answer, and then we'll have to wait for him to
While we
come
wait
back.
For him, Ben, I'm really fascinated by story trading because, I'm in medicine, and I just got randomly pulled into SPOCs and asymmetric bets in the past 18 months. And then for some reason, I found myself as a moderator of several subreddits. You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
And I got to have a good feel what treads and what will do well. And I felt like these metrics are not being measured in real time by people on Wall Street. So I think you guys are onto something with story trading.
Yeah, that's what we believe. It's we have this philosophy that the market value is always the correct value, in opposition to a lot of fundamentally oriented investors who believe the market's chaotic and inefficient. And if a stock is trading in a disparity to its financial value, that's because people are stupid. And we say, no, people are not stupid. The market's very deep. There's a lot of participants. There's a reason why people buy and sell. So if DWAC is $97, you better believe there's a really good reason for it. So, it's about trying to understand the market, understand other participants, and really understand different reasons aside from just fundamentals of why a stock would be either undervalued or overvalued. So I really hope he chimes in.
Ben,
what are your thoughts while we wait for Patrick to come back? You've seen the strength in the stock, and the fundamentalists, they run these calculations after the $1 billion pipe. They're like, hey, this is already valued more than Twitter. What do you say to that?
So I was lucky enough to, talk and deal with 29 SPACs over the past 12 months. And none of them are doing what Digital World Acquisition Corp has done. I know exactly what you're saying.
I'm on my phone because I ran out of memory there.
All right, you're back. It's okay. We're having a nice conversation about sentiment and sentimental value.
Just to say that, Ben, sentimental value is very valuable these days, and I think it'll be increasingly valuable going forward.
Hear me now? I switched to a phone.
Yeah, we hear you. All right, Mr. Patrick, in and out. It's frozen again.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he comes back.
So, like you're saying, Ben, I think this, sentiment is a valuable metric that some people haven't quantified, and take into their calculations and trying to evaluate stocks. And I think in the future this will be more important. I'm also with a physics. I have a physics background, and that's how I got into derivative trading. I remember I never traded anything till I started getting an attending job, and I
Hello.
just looked into
Hello.
derivative.
All
All right.
right, Patrick, you're
All right.
back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm on the phone. I don't know what happened there.
All right.
Miami. We need to improve the internet down here. I don't
Well,
think they expect this many people and this kind of bandwidth. But back to the question on the trading. I need to be careful, obviously, not to influence stock price. I don't want to do it, and it wouldn't be productive for any owners of the stock. But
okay.
I think a lot can be. There's a lot of analysis can be done on the fundamentals as well as the emotions. Fundamentally, DWAC doesn't have a huge float, right? That's something that everyone can analyze what the float actually is, and the number of potential holders of the name. Ben, so as you said, being part of DWAC could be important for some people. The actual stock price, I try not to really pay attention to that. I'm much more interested in what this is in a decade than it is on any given day. But I think you are right that there's many things, and I'm not talking about digital world. I'm saying stocks in general, right? I mean, there's so many different factors that influence stock price performance. But I really a lot of times pay attention to the fundamentals, and obviously when things have attention, they do trade more actively than if they don't.
Okay, great. Let me ask one final question, then I'll turn it over to Canadian for the rest of the show. With this $1 billion pipe, is there anything you can tell us let me put it this way. There are some people who refer to that pipe as a death spiral financing, right? It's very good terms for the people who are participating. It's set up in such a way that it seems that the people participating are not really in it to hold the stock long term. They're in it for a transactional reason, getting a huge discount. And some people are concerned about that. I'm wondering, with the strength of the stock, especially the last couple of weeks, with interest rates, concerns and the war, like, look how strong the stock is. Is there an opportunity to maybe go back and improve the terms for the rest of retail holders?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you always have to look at pros and cons, right? And anybody that's going to provide you significant liquidity needs to get paid to do so, right? $1 billion doesn't come free. The terms of the pipe deal are public. Everyone is welcome, and once again, I'm going to say it a million times if we do a million interviews. You have to read the public filings. Sometimes they're boring, but if you just read the news, someone else has read the public filing, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, maybe they were careful, maybe they weren't, maybe their analysis is correct, or maybe it's not. But as with contracts, you got to read them yourself and really kind of go through them. So the pipe is publicly available. If you look at the terms of the pipe, it was a 20% discount off of the trading price at the time that it was agreed to, and you can argue whether or not that's a huge discount, right? I mean, that's in a way it's opinion. I'm not going to provide my opinion, but everyone should read that and understand. Do they think it was a positive or negative? And nothing's a straight question always, right? There's positives and negatives, but what is the benefit for the company for having $1 billion to potentially grow? The $1 billion only becomes actuality upon closing, but is that more important than the additional shares that were out there and these liquidity providers getting a discount or not, right? So when you do an analysis of whether or not something is beneficial or not, you kind of have to take everything into account. And is $1 billion to grow the business more important or not than the terms that were given to the pipe investors? And everybody can analyze this for themselves, and is more than welcome to. Right? I mean, all of this is publicly available, and that's what I love about public companies. Right? It's a democrat. It basically makes investing democratic. Anyone is allowed to either buy, sell, or do nothing. Right? And you do it based on information, and the information that you have is stock price, history, public filings. Sometimes there's analysis that you can look at, but I love the public markets. One of the things I like about SPACs is I do believe that somehow we are providing the public the ability to invest in companies that otherwise would not be available to the public. So I really like what we're doing. I think it's an important effort, and I love public companies. I love people kind of voting. Are you doing a good job or not a good job? And we're not creating the valuation ourselves, right? We're not guessing. It's something that the public decides. So I really like that about the company, and stock price performance, right? It's buyers and sellers. If there's more buyers and sellers, you're going up. If there's more sellers and buyers, you're going down.
All right. Thank you for that, Patrick. I got to step out. You guys, Canadian, you can go as long as you'd like. Neeraj is in the studio handling the controls. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you for those good questions.
Sure.
So, Patrick, transitioning a little bit away from the financial side and going a little bit to the app features, a lot of folks are wondering, especially for their parents, will there be a browser?
So they're like any business, right? We're in the early innings. The company itself, and this is all public. The company hasn't existed for that long. The merger definitive was announced recently. The cash from the SPAC and/or PIPE will be available on closing. So there's a progression, right? And this is I believe early in the progression of the potential of the company, and the plans. I think the best person to communicate the plans are Devin Nunez. He's the CEO, but there's definitely plans in the works to make the product potentially available to a much larger audience. I'd love to maybe invite Devin onto the next AMA number 3. I'll speak to him about it, and he can speak a little bit more as to the plans for the company.
That's awesome. We look forward to having Mr. Nunez. A lot of folks have very interesting questions that they want to ask, especially like things like, is it going to be more like Twitter or more like Facebook? You know what I mean? Those are the questions some folks have, right?
Yeah. So, I think, the truth is that the product, everyone's going to get eventually a chance to look at it and see what they feel about it. I mean, it's Truth Social is its own company and its own app.
Some folks are also wondering, what level of involvement will you be having down the road? It looks like we lost you on the screen there. Okay, yeah, I can see you back.
I think I'm back.
Yeah.
No, digital world, it's in the public filings. We will have representatives on the board. I think that's important. And obviously, we are, deeply interested in if we can assist in any way, we're going to, utilize our network and resources to potentially give the best support to the product possible.
That's awesome. And So good. So you said there'll be board members that'll be from digital that'll be there. Then the other questions folks are asking is, uh, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit. Are we expecting what Mr. Nunes said? Maybe around end of April, was it, that we'll have most people onboarded who want to be part of the app?
Say again?
So I think it was Nunes who said, near the end of March, end of April, we'll have more folks on Truth. Like it'll be easier to get online on it. Is that the plan, or is this kind of an evolving a landscape where as we go through the beta testing, we'll know how fast things go?
Yeah, I think the best thing is just follow, any news from the company, right? So that's the best way to keep informed. And from the SPAC side, our updates will be through public filings.
Okay. I'm getting questions for Benazir as well.
Yeah, and we should do Bene separately.
Yeah. We'll do that. We'll do a separate one, guys, for that down the road. It looks like I have to head out too. The third AMA.
Let's keep it short and thanks everybody, and we'll hopefully have another one, and keep in touch with people interested in what we're doing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Patrick, for giving us your time today, and we'll be seeing each other in our third AMA. Take care, everyone.
All right, excellent. Bye.
All right, take care. And so for the people at our SPAC and our DWA stock, thanks for showing up tonight. As usual, we appreciate your support and continued interest. The best way to follow updates, it's on the public filings that are accessible to everyone. So good night, everyone, and have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, excellent, guys. Thank you.